we're going to talk about a movie that we're going to recommend, or more so, I'm going to recommend.
Yeah.
And that's called The Quick and the Dead. If you haven't seen this movie, you have Sharon Stone, Gene Hackman, a young Leonardo DiCaprio, Russell Crowe. So this movie is action-packed. It's a Western film. Let me give my spiel about the film real quick. It was directed by Sam Remy. If you don't know, he did the original 3 Spider-Man films. In addition to the Spider-Man films, he did the recent Doctor Strange movie, 2, and more. You also have Josh Whedon, who contributed to the screenplay as well. So you have a lot of heavy hitters that's involved in this movie. This was a movie done in 1995 during Sharon Stone hype. I really love it. It's a Western movie. But enough about me shelling for the film. How did you like the movie?
I thought it was really good. The story was good. The action was good. Everybody was there trying to be part of that
Tournament,
yeah.
It's basically... Actually, you know what? Watching this movie is a tournament for gunfighters, right? It's a Western tournament. You got gunfighters. Everybody has their own different story. And they're all competing to be at the number 1 spot for different reasons. Some for cash, some for revenge, some for just fun, right?
Yeah.
And some to kind of weed out their enemies. But if you were to take this movie, right, this is a great example of a movie that how Mortal Kombat should be, right? Because it's a tournament style, maybe not with martial arts, but with guns. But they were to do a brand new Mortal Kombat film, they should probably follow this format where every person kind of has their own individual story, their own individual goals. Like Gene Hackman and Leonardo DiCaprio, their dynamics, that could have been Scorpion and Sub-Zero. I'm still going on a tangent here, but they kind of had that thing going on. So you could have had these different characters, or even Gene Hackman and Russell Crowe, whatever. But everybody kind of had their own sub-story going on as they're progressing in this tournament. So imagine if we would this with Mortal Kombat. I think that would have made Mortal Kombat so dope. In my opinion, I think so.
But they're never gonna get it right.
Probably not.
I mean, the first one was okay, the original one, but like it was too much, like too cheesy.
Yeah, and it's just a tournament. And this one's a tournament of just different characters that each get a little bit of shine, especially the main 4 characters. You know what I mean? So even the side characters that didn't really do much, they got a little bit of shine too. Like the character Ace, Ace, if you don't know, he's the actor that played in Aliens, the robot guy. Can't remember his name right now. But yeah, like everybody get a little bit of shine. Lance Hickerson, I believe his name is. But everybody get a little bit of shine, and you don't feel like even the people who get killed, you kind of feel like, oh, they had a little bit of story. Like you get a mix of some with a story, some to just kind of die. You know, obviously there's a lot of people who died in this film, so not everyone gets a story. Yeah. But you know, they do a good mix of just balancing it out and just killing characters, and it makes you feel something. You know, compared to other movies where people die and you're like, yeah, whatever. Some of the characters who die in this film, you kind of feel it. You know what I mean? And I think they do a good job with that. And I would highly recommend this film. You know, if you love Western movies, you don't love Western movies, it's definitely worth checking out. Especially if you like Russell Crowe, if you're a Leonardo DiCaprio fan. You get to see Sharon Stone. This is like a female power before female power was even popular and stuff like that. But it doesn't even feel like female power, but she does a good job in the movie as the lead. You got Gene Hackman. You know, they can't go wrong with Gene Hackman in the movie. He always plays a good role, especially in the movies like this. Especially if you're looking for something to watch, I'd definitely say this is a fun, entertaining movie to watch. Currently, it's on Netflix. It might be somewhere else by the time you watch this movie. But, you know these movies, they kind of pass along the buck on different streaming services. So at some point, you'll be able to see it. Anything else you want to add?
I feel like you said everything. I didn't even get a chance to say anything.
Well, let me ask you this.
You were just like nonstop, like not even breathing, just saying what you wanted to say. I was like, I'm just going to let him talk.
Well, because
I can tell that you really like this movie. I feel like you love this movie.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah. That's why I was like, I'm going to let him say what he got to say. But yeah, like even for a person that doesn't really like cowboy movies, it was a pretty good story. It's like even the way they filmed it, certain scenes, they got good angles, the way they shot it and everything. So, and then yeah, like the girl, she was cool, she was badass, which is something that not a lot of people could agree on. Even seeing Leonardo DiCaprio at a young age, I'm like, dang, he's young right here.
And you can see he had star power back then. He's kind of like the same guy, pretty much.
Yeah, and
not much has changed in his acting abilities.
Yeah, like he just feels like the same character, and I'm just like, dang, he sounds the same, even when at a young age. Very cocky.
Yeah, and even then, like you look at Sam Remy, the director, right? You kind of see some of his like hallmark stuff, like Army of the Dead, Evil Dead. To kind of feel sometimes some of his angles and some of the death scenes. It feels like a Sam Remy film, like an early Sam Remy film. Watching this, so it's good to kind of see a lot of talent was involved in this film. Unfortunately, it didn't do too well when it came out, but there was a lot of talent involved. Josh Whedon, even though he doesn't get much credit in this film, he did contribute to the screenplay, even though he's a name that people don't like anymore. But he did do the Avengers, the first two, so that's a name you got to respect. You got Sam Remy, like I said, as a director. A lot of talent in front and behind the screen. So unfortunately, it didn't do as well at the box office, but I think it had a budget of like 35 and made 47 million. But
it's
yeah,
not that bad. At least they made some money back.
I think at the time it was kind of considered a flop. Yeah, but I enjoyed it. I'm glad they made it. Well, they say like director Sam Remy later blamed himself and his visual style for the film's failure. So yes, he called it a failure, according to whatever the Google say. So you can definitely feel his style, Sam Remy's style in this film is not your typical Western. So it's not your typical Western film. But I think that's what made it.
Because of the girl too being the lead girl, maybe.
No, I think it was a kind of contribution to a lot of things. It was definitely different for its time. I think the movie was just ahead of its time, to be honest. I don't think people were ready for that movie when it came out, and unfortunately, it didn't do too well. I don't think it was only the girl. I think, like you said, the visual style. Because Sharon Stone was hot back then. Like as far as like not that's not looks, but as far as like an actress, like she was on fire. So I don't think that was the thing. She was the star. It wasn't Russell Crowe. It wasn't Leonardo DiCaprio. She was the A star in this movie. To be honest, nobody cared about those guys back then. You know what I mean? She was the ace, boom coon, maybe Gene Hackman as well, but she's the one who carried the movie, Let's look at her movies at that time. Let's see here. So this came out in 95. Let's go. And Sam Remy wasn't Sam Remy at the time, too. So you had a lot of young talent that people didn't know. At this point in her life, she did. Let's see here. Yeah, Sharon Stone was definitely a star back then. Like all the other people, like looking at the movie now, it's like, oh, this had an all-star cast, but it wasn't an all-star team because they weren't who they are now, right? We can look back and say, oh man, they had so-and-so in there, but they weren't who they are now. So yeah, Sharon Stone, Gene Hackman, Gene Hackman. Sam Remy didn't do the Spider-Man films until later on, so he didn't have that success until later on in his movie career. Even though he did the Evil Dead and other films, they weren't like huge blockbusters. So he wasn't a name that some people were checking for, but he wasn't like the man that he became. But yeah, great film. You enjoyed it, right?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, so go ahead and go watch that film. If you like the film, leave your comments below. Let us know your thoughts. That's pretty much it. Anything else you want to say?
No.
We out.
We out.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Peace.